Happy Monday, my fabulous vibers. Welcome back to my podcast, where I believe that every woman deserves the freedom to craft the life she wants and the guts to go after it. We will share stories, facts, and opinions on various aspects of life to give you that kick in the ass to light you up and spread killer vibes every day, 24/7. I am so excited, guys. Today, I have one of my favorite people of all time. I am joined by a dear friend, a colleague, the most amazing branding photographer in Houston, Texas. I do say that because she is my branding photographer, and I wouldn't go to anyone else but Victoria Garcia at Victoria Garcia Studios. Everyone who knows me knows that I am a person who is super loyal and goes to the same person all the time, every time. And so, they used to ask me, Victoria, who takes your photos? And now they don't. They say, oh, we know who takes your photos. It's Victoria. You know that shoot we did in the yellow dress? Mm-hmm. Everybody's always talking about that shoot. So one of the reasons why I wanted to introduce Victoria, say hi, Victoria.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
I wanted to introduce you to my audience because I always tell people that, especially business women, that they need to invest in good photography for themselves.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's like such a big deal, but they don't get it. They rather go out and get okay, maybe not so bad, but a phone picture is not as good as when Victoria takes the photos. I do take my photos with my phone sometimes, but there's nothing like taking a real photo with a professional photographer. And so one of the reasons why I want to introduce you to my audience is because I really want you to talk to them about why it's so important that they invest in themselves, that they invest in their photography, and that they always put their best foot forward in anything that they do. And I think it's because when you have good photos and good photography in your brand or your website, Instagram, social media, whatever it is, I think it really brings credibility
I do too.
To that business.
Yeah.
And I also think that it brings a sense of seriousness, that you're serious about what you're doing because you're invested in what you're doing and in yourself.
Yep.
And investments are not cheap. Why? Because if you want something that's good and it's quality, you're going to pay for it. I mean, it's just, you can see it. Sometimes people say, well, that's what you get, what you pay for. And that's absolutely true. Sometimes even in photographers. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. And we're going to go through that a little bit. But why am I in love with your photos? Let's talk a little bit why I love your photos.
Tell me all the reasons.
And why I wanted to hear. I know. We're going to talk about her personality traits later too. So is that part of your personality trait?
Absolutely part of my
What is your love language, by the way?
My love language is words of affirmation.
Mine too.
Yeah.
Oh
Just tell
my
me
gosh.
I'm pretty. Tell me you love me. I love words of affirmation and quality time.
It's words of affirmation for me too.
Yeah.
Like I will have days where I'm not going to cook dinner until my kids say thank you for me. Or if Rusk and I are together, I'm like, tell me how much you love me, how obsessed you are with me. And he hates it. He's like, ugh. But I'm like, that's my love language. But you know what? One reason why I love your photos so much, and I'm going to ask you a few questions about your photography and your business and why it's so important. Also, we're going to talk a little bit about your brand photography school community. I'm going to ask you some questions about that, but I think the reason why your photos are so special and why I get so many compliments on them is because for me, they feel light and free. They don't feel constrained. They don't feel like you're putting me in a situation where I don't want to be. You're kind of letting me be me and free and light, and you capture that essence of the person. And I think that's what makes them different and unique. My personality, my quirks, sometimes my wild side comes out. And I feel like if I can't be wild and myself with my photographer, then who am I going to be with, So I think the photographer that I do choose or whoever I'm with has to give me that comfort. Has to be like, I'm there with you. I'm going to just
you
take the photos. Do your thing. Let me just catch it. Exactly. So, it seems like you do capture that. So how did we meet, Victoria? Do you remember how we met?
how did we meet? I think we met at your boutique. Am I right? At the Thinking Boutique.
But I didn't know you until you had a phone call with me.
Oh, that's
before
right.
that. It was a random call.
I reached out to you to see if we could trade services, which is something I talked about in my community today about building portfolio. And I thought that your business was a perfect candidate for what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
You were a perfect candidate. You were one of my ideal clients. And so I asked if he would allow me to photograph you in a brand shoot in exchange for letting me put my promotional materials in your store. And that was the start of a beautiful friendship.
Yeah, but you know how interesting that it was really like a cold call out of nowhere, because I really didn't know you back then.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you knew me.
No,
I knew of you through, I know somebody Houston.
Yeah.
Because I knew Miss Elizabeth and I knew Anna and I knew some of the people there. But I remember when I went into your Instagram and I saw a photo of PR Christina.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
That you did with her outside. I thought, oh my God, these are really good.
Yay. Yeah.
Yeah. And I liked it. I thought, okay, I like this girl. I think we could definitely try something and do something.
And that was a new experience for me too, because that was one of the first times that I had done any sort of cold calling and reaching out as a marketing technique for my business. It was a strategy that I had learned about and was very scary because I didn't know you. And I didn't know what you would say or how it would all go. But I knew that the brand and you were somebody that I wanted to work with. And I thought, well, this could be something really amazing, or it could be something that doesn't go anywhere. But either way, I've got to try. And so I was nervous to put myself out there like that. But I think we worked really well together, and it turned into a really good relationship, I think.
It did. It really did. And I think I tend to tell people all the time, like, sometimes you don't know who's going to be instrumental in your life, who's going to turn that corner for you. Like sometimes, like for me, you became that for me because I was looking for people who could do photography, but to me it was like much more than photography. Right. It's more than just hiring somebody to take some photos. It's somebody that you trust. Mm-hmm. It's somebody that you can have the confidence they're going to take the right photos for you, that they're going to capture you correctly.
And execute your vision. Yeah. So and for you, that's something that I think is really important, because you do come into the projects that you do with a lot of vision. You have a good idea of what you want, and you know that you need to hire people that can execute that clearly and who don't need a lot of hand-holding or explanation. Like if you can come to them and say, this is what I'm looking for and this is the end goal that I want, and trust that they're going to achieve that, then I know that you're golden. So that's one thing I think that we have.
Yeah, I think that's why we became such good partners. So tell my listeners a little bit about you. Are you a native Houstonian?
I am.
Okay. What part of Houston are you from?
Houston born and raised, mostly on the northwest side. And then I lived a few years in Arizona when I was young. So I adopted the magic of the desert into my heart and brought it back with me to Houston. But yeah, Houston born and raised all my life. I love it here. This is my city.
When did you decide you wanted to become a photographer? Have you always known that, or is it something you came to later in life?
Looking back, I realized that I did have a camera in my hands a lot of my youth, that it was one of the things that I had always done, but it wasn't something I thought much of. I will say, though, that all of my childhood was me trying to find the art that I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. I wrote and I painted and I drew and I danced and I did all of these different creative arts. And then when I was in high school, I joined the journalism club and I picked up a camera, and the rest was sort of history. I think I finally had found the medium that allowed me to express myself, but also had enough of the technical and sort of, because unlike like painting or drawing, there's a lot of science in photography.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, because of the camera itself, you have to learn all the technical aspects of the camera and everything about lighting. There's all of these different things that come into it. So as much as it is an art, it is a science. And I think that's what I kind of picked up on, was this art that I could use to express who I was and what I thought, but that also required a little bit of like science behind
Yeah. And that's why I joined your school, because I wanted to learn a little bit more of the details and some of the things, because for me, it's always about learning about what I'm doing. And so the more I can learn about something, I feel more comfortable doing that.
Yeah.
So how long have you been in business, for example, and tell us a little bit about your business and your photography business.
So I've been in business for 7 years now, and 5 years in this genre as a personal branding photographer. And about 4 or 5 of I would say 5 of those years have been full-time as a freelancer. And, but yeah, I didn't realize I always had an entrepreneurial spirit. I had a little candy store when I was in elementary school that I bought a bunch of candy, and all the kids would come and buy their candy from me. And then I would use all the money to go and buy more candy. Until then, I ate all of my inventory, and that didn't go very far. But I feel like I always had that sort of entrepreneurial spirit. So when I found photography, my next thing was, well, how do I make a career out of this? What am I going to do to use this arts form and this skill that I have to build a career? And so that's how I ended up doing full-time photography.
Yeah. Did you have a portfolio before you started? How did you create images in photography?
Oh God, I was so bad.
to show your clients, like, hey guys, this is what I can do.
Yeah, I was horrible in the beginning. Oh, I cringe to look back at my early work. But yeah, I mean, photography, I think, is a process of portfolio building over time, which is what I was talking about with my students today. But in the very beginning, I would find friends or models that I wanted to photograph and then create the scene that I wanted to, like what the outcome was. And then I would build my portfolio that way. And then when I got into personal branding photography through my network, that's when I started reaching out and asking my colleagues if they would want to be photographed by me in exchange for, 4 or 5 pictures of them they could use on their social media, or like you and I did, in exchange for allowing you to market to your audience. I'm going to photograph you and use your images as part of my marketing in exchange for letting me have my pamphlets and my, letting me talk to your customers and your clients. And that, I think, is such a great way to build a portfolio as a new photographer, because you're building relationships, you're building your portfolio, and you're also getting some of your needs met as a new business owner when you can trade services with one of your colleagues.
Yeah, and I think one important aspect of this whole thing is that there's a lot of collaboration that's going on, especially when you're in business. Like, there's a lot of collaboration that happens. Like, you have to find who your ideal client is, and then reach them at in their place where they are, and then build upon that. And grow with them and build upon that. Because I remember we started as, images for my store.
Right. Yeah.
And then it became, I needed images for me, for my website. Yeah. And then you did my photos for that. And then it went to, I needed more for my brand and for my personal brand. Yeah. And then over the years, as my podcast came about, I said, I need photos for my podcast. I need photos for my brand. And like, I had already kind of developed, kind of a brand image of what I needed. So from there, you just knew, okay, so you go a little bit through like a questionnaire.
Right.
And so tell us a little bit about that questionnaire, because I remember that questionnaire, and like you try to get into who we are and what we're looking for.
I think the goal for any photographer is to capture their subject as they see themselves. Well, depending on what genre, but definitely in personal branding photography is, I'm the medium by which you are telling your story and showing who you are. And so that questionnaire is just a little bit, that gives me a little bit of insight into how you see yourself, how you want to be seen by your audience or your clients, right? Because if you have an idea of the values and the vision that you want to portray in your brand, then we're going to try and conceptualize that into the images that you use as well. And then also, one of the things that I remember asking you when we first shot were, who are your icons? Who are the style icons that you look up to? And what are the magazines that you read? Like, if you were going to have an article done about yourself, what magazine would it be in? And that kind of gave me an idea as to your vibe as a person and your personal style, and then how to photograph you so that your images reflected your personality and your personal style and the brand that you were building. So it's, it just gives me a little bit more insight into the concept.
What if your clients don't know what they want? What if they don't even have a vision for themselves? They just know that they want photos.
That's so much easier. No, I'm just kidding.
Because you direct them and you tell them what they need to have.
Yes. So part of being a personal branding photographer, in my opinion, right? Because there's different schools of thought on this now that other people are doing it. But in my opinion, part of being a personal branding photographer is being a personal branding expert and helping clients to see those parts of themselves that they don't quite understand yet.
Yeah.
So a lot of my clients do come to me at a point in their journey where they are already building their brand and they have an idea, but some start with photography because they're building social media channels and they're building these products that they need to have images for. And they often don't really know what their vision is quite yet or how they want to show up so much. And so in those cases, I still do the questionnaire with them, but it's usually over the phone so that I can hear the words that come out of their mouth when they're describing themselves. We kind of go from there. And then really I fall back on the things that I know work for any brand, you know, the types of posing or the types of scenes that I know are sort of ubiquitous for selling products online or selling services online. Yeah. And we go from there. And I just make sure that they have, you know, a great hair and makeup stylist and a great wardrobe stylist, which you do for my clients as well.
So you find that it's going to work out better if the person knows what they want.
Yes.
Okay.
I do. Yeah. I mean, it could go either way, but I do think that when you know who you are, that's one of the bigger things.
Right.
And this is one of my business philosophies as well when it comes to attracting clients. When you know who you are and you are confident in what you are bringing to the table, then you have the ability to communicate that clearly to your audience. And that's what attracts your audience to you, right? Knowing who your ideal client is super important. And it is a huge part of business, but knowing who you are in your business is vital, because otherwise, what are you communicating? You know?
Why do you think a lot of women are not comfortable in investing in themselves?
Probably because they are not comfortable with themselves. They don't believe that they deserve to have that investment made. They don't believe that they're going to, and specifically for photography, they don't think they're going to look good. They've not seen great images of themselves in the past. They don't have people who are directing them.
So how do you convince them?
Hopefully through the quality of my work. And then one of the things that I reassure them is that I take a lot of time to pose and direct and make sure that I am only showing them the images that I know are the best, more flattering version of themselves, right? I have taken extensive classes on posing in terms of, like, I'm looking at your body type. Through the camera, I'm looking at your facial expression. I'm paying attention to the little details about how you move. If you're in front of my camera and I pose you in a certain way, and I can see on your face that makes you uncomfortable, I'm not going to say to you, oh, man,
you're just going to switch it.
Yeah, I'm like, you look really uncomfortable like this. Do you want to do something else? No, I'm not going to say that, because that's just going to make you more inside your head. I'm just going to repose you or move you, turn your body this way. I'm going to model for you the move that I want you to make so that you can make that. I think a lot of women are just very uncomfortable in their bodies specifically. And so I really try to spend that time while they're in front of my camera, helping them to be comfortable.
And that's kind of knowing a little psychology too. A little bit of like knowing how to get in their head and their mindset and to change it. 'Cause that's something I deal with a lot too. You know, like I would try to suggest certain looks and I'm like, no, I'm not wearing that. Like, oh my God. I'm like, you're just going to look so good in it. No. I don't wear anything short. I don't wear anything tight. I never wear prints. I mean, they have like a list of things they will not do or they will not try until you really have to push them to try something. And then they're like, oh, I really like that. Or that's a really good look for me. And then they find their signature. But what are some things that you recommend to women to try to make themselves feel a little bit more comfortable when they're taking photos?
Get naked. I mean, I say that.
Okay.
But I think it really is just, you know, falling back in love with yourself and falling back in love with your body. And you know, there's a level of trust with your photographer, definitely, that they are going to capture you in the best light, but also, you know, just owning it, right? Like getting outside of your head and allowing yourself to have fun on set, and not being too self-conscious, because at the end of the day, like my job is to make sure that you show up as your most beautiful self, right?
Your best self.
Your best self. Your job is just to have a great time. And that's what translates through in the images. I have had clients who are very much like you mentioned, like they're very combative or like, they don't take direction really well. They don't I've heard the phrase before, I don't understand how this is going to look good.
Yeah.
And my response is just trust me.
Mm-hmm.
And let me show you. And one of the things I do is I show my clients the back of the camera, which in photography is a big no-no. We don't want you to see what it looks like before we've edited it and post-processed.
And that's one thing I like about you.
Yeah.
Because honestly, when I see where the photos are heading, I get even more excited about it.
Oh, exactly. And when you see this great and that, then like I see the transformation in my clients when they see my camera. They're like, okay, I do look good. And then by the end of it, they're pulling out all kinds of fierce looks.
Exactly.
Getting into it because now they've seen that they can look great on camera and they've allowed themselves to have more fun.
And they've allowed themselves to have more fun.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key, because I have worked with other photographers where they refuse to show you what's happening so far. And if I don't get to see what's working and what's not working, I don't know where I need to change, where I need to let go, where I need to just chill, where I need to just not be so uptight, be a little more free.
Yeah.
I mean, like one of the photos that you took of me in the yellow dress, my son came home and was like, Mom, that seed, and you sat down, it looked really good. It was really, how did you think about doing this? And I don't even think about it, honey. When I'm with Victoria, I just sit down and I just do, because I know she's just going to take pictures and she's going to get something good.
Yeah.
And then I came home and I told my producer, I said, okay, I've got these pictures. So we're going to pick one for the podcast. And she picked the one that my son mentioned, the one that I mentioned, and the one that Russ liked too, because he's like, this really shows you in a very sexy, vulnerable way. And like, this is who you are. Like your smile is there. Like everything about you is in that photo. And I think that's what is really cool about a photographer, is that they can see you in a way where you can't see yourself until you see the photo.
Yeah.
And then that photo is there and they're like, oh, this picture is so perfect.
Yeah.
It captures you who you are. It captures, your essence, your brand.
Yeah.
And even though, for some women, it's very hard to get out of that shell and get out of that mindset. I think it's important that they find a photographer and they stick with a photographer that they feel really good. And I think I think one thing about you is that you do have a loyal, customer base. Yeah. And they come to you, clients. And they come to you for all of their business needs, not just social media. If they need things for their website, they'll come to you.
Yeah.
So let me ask you about a piece of advice, something that you could give to a young woman, because I do mentor young girls in college and they're always wanting to become business owners themselves. What is one piece of advice that you can give to a young lady that's looking to become an entrepreneur?
Start now.
And start doing what?
Start doing learning. I mean, for me, reading and education, even though I did not have formal college education, has been one of the things that has advanced me in my business leaps and bounds, because there's so much information out there and so much education. There's so many resources out there that it really is, it is hard to fail at this if you've got the willpower and you've got the determination to do it. And if you're interested in something, even if you think, well, nobody's going to buy this or who's going to want this, do it anyway. Start now and do something, because even if you fail at the first one, you can improve and you can pivot and you can do so many things. In photography, I had no idea what kind of business I was going to run until I found it. But I had to try all of the other things and know that I didn't want them, and then, fail at a couple. And then finally I found the thing. So, I mean, if you're a young woman and you're interested in becoming an entrepreneur, then there's not a whole lot that's going to stop you except yourself. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that as women, we put a lot of limitations on what we're capable of because of what we have been told that we are capable of. And I don't think that that's necessarily the case anymore. I mean, I do feel like, women are really running the world in a lot of ways.
I'm so excited about that.
I am too. And it's phenomenal. And I think that it's important to see that and to also know that it is possible for you. I have had a lot of challenges and a lot of obstacles in my life, but at no time did I ever think that I wasn't going to be able to do the things that I wanted to do, just because that wasn't in me. And now I'm doing them.
Did you ever doubt the talent you had?
Oh, I still doubt the talent I have.
I wonder why we doubt how good we are at something.
Because there's always somebody better or more talented or more skilled or more savvy in ways that we're not savvy, and so that we think that has some bearing on us. But what I've discovered about myself is that no one can outwork me. I might not have the most talent or skill as a photographer when I compare myself to the people that I look up to, definitely. But I know that I can work just as hard, and I can, go just as hard at what I want. And so regardless of my skill level or my talent, I know that I can accomplish my goals because I'm not giving up on them and because I'm working my ass off for them.
Yeah. And that leads me to the next part. Do you think about your competition all the time? Because there's a lot of photographers out there, and some of them say they're branding photographers.
And they might be.
They might be. They might not be. But do you think about your competition?
I do. I think that as a business owner, it is healthy to consider your competition for a lot of reasons. I think it's naive to have blinders up to what other people in your industry are doing, because how are you differentiating if you don't know what they're doing, first of all? So you do have to sort of keep an eye on your competition so that you know how to come at the market in a different, more unique way. I think that's important. And there are times when I do feel, I don't feel the comparison of, are they doing it better than me?
Yeah.
More so, I think, are they doing it faster than me? That gets to me sometimes.
Faster.
Because there are people in my industry who are putting out the things that I want to put out faster than I am.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And so then I'm like, well, crap. Like, I wanted to do this thing like 2 years ago.
But is it because you think about it too much, or then you're not ready for it yet? Or what is it? Why do you procrastinate? Or you're not procrastinating, you're just preparing?
I would like to think that I'm preparing, but it's probably more likely that I'm procrastinating. That's a part of my personality, definitely, is putting off hard things, but also because I know that when I do get to it, I'm going to kill it. And so I'm like, yeah, it's there. It's waiting for me in the future. If I started today or I started tomorrow, it's still going to be badass. So yes, I do procrastinate a lot.
That's one conversation you and I had a long time ago. Like, how do you do follow through? I said, I just follow through.
Yeah.
I don't think about it. I just do it.
And I do. I get stuck in the overthinking and wanting it. So, for instance, the personal branding photography school.
Yes. So I was going to get to that next. So I'm so glad that you're on that now. Awesome. Tell us a little bit about your Be a Brand Photographer.
Be a brand photographer. So this was an idea I did have a couple of years ago that I waited for way too long to do for many, many reasons. One of them was because I was kind of stuck in my own way about what it was going to be and, how I wanted to come at the market. I didn't want to teach photography for a long time, specifically because I had that sort of like imposter syndrome of, how can I teach photography? Like, so much of what I do are like hacks, you know what I mean? And I'm supposed to go and teach.
You don't feel like you're raising a group of competitors?
I do, sort of, but I also feel like the mindset shift around that is that I'm helping to build the industry. Right? Because personal branding photography is still very new. It's a baby. I mean, we're probably like maybe 7 years old tops in terms of a genre. And the other genres like weddings and family photography.
A lot of those,
and a higher level of like commercial photography, right? And you're talking about national brands and brands with bigger budgets. We're tiny, but super lucrative and amazing. And so I definitely want to be one of the people on the forefront of creating the standard for what personal branding photography is and how we operate within it and what it means. So I'm excited about it.
So you're not raising little competitors?
I probably am. But here's my theory about that, right?
No, but honestly, like, a lot of people don't even see it that way. To me, it's like, how can I learn to be a better photographer? That's going to lead to how can I be a better stylist? Yeah. That's going to lead to how can I be a better business owner? Yeah. To me, that is just like learning one aspect of a big picture.
Exactly. Exactly. And I don't think about, so one of my things about competition is there's enough room for everybody. We see that in super saturated markets like real estate, which in Houston, Texas, our real estate industry is humongous, but there are new realtors every day who come into the market
all day, every day,
kill it.
Yeah.
Right. So I definitely look at them when I think about how to do my competition. And then the other thing is, from a client perspective, if I am teaching all of these people how to do what I do, and a client goes to them and says, oh, I really like their work and I really like, what they do, but I see that they are taught by Victoria. And then my studio sort of becomes like the premier version of what my competitors are doing. If they have the budget and they have the mindset that they want the best, they're going to come to me.
Like the Paul Mitchell School of hairdressing.
Right.
Fabulous and classy are raging at the moment. Do you need a touch-up? Does your closet need an update? Or are you feeling a bit out of touch with the decade's trends? Just shoot me a DM at think_chick and we'll plan out the perfect fashion strategy for you. Of hairdressing.
Right. You got Paul Mitchell.
You got Paul Mitchell, and then you had the Paul Mitchell School. Yeah. And people knew that they came from the Paul Mitchell School, which meant, high quality.
So it does elevate their
salon
brand and their service, but it also elevates mine as being an educator and being sort of like a premier in the industry, which I love. So I don't mind so much teaching my competition either, because too, and especially in Houston, right, we're such a huge market. If there's somebody who comes to me and I'm out of their budget, I have a huge team of photographers and mentees that I've worked with that I trust, that I know that they're amazing. And I can say, okay, well, that's great. Here's another
refer.
Yeah, I can refer out to them. And, that always comes back and repays you in kind. Like, I think that there's a lot of goodwill that happens in that from the client's perspective. They see you as professional. And then from a referral perspective, your other colleagues see that you're the kind of photographer who's not like petty or insecure or, kind of like shitty about
or egotistical and then holding on all the cards for themselves.
Exactly.
And I think another thing that happens is something that I've read a few times in business books is when you create a community of people, a community around you, they always kind of lead you back into who you are, like sales, connections, networking. If anybody's looking for somebody for a magazine article, for a radio gig, whatever it is, they always come back to the person that's leading at the top.
Yeah.
And so I always feel like that makes sense in terms of creating a community around you and creating a community. Yeah. And I noticed that some of the people in your group, in your be a brand, it's not that they want to be photographers. I think they're just looking to learn about lighting, photos for their products, product shots, service shots, not necessarily to take the job that you're doing and do it themselves, because that's not what I want to do. I just want to learn how that aspect of who I am and how I can take a photo can make me a better person in so many other areas. Because I couldn't be a photographer like you. I just don't have the right brain. My brain is very left. Like we're going to talk a little bit about that later, but I want to know a little bit about how I can maybe get into a good product shot or how I can take other photos or, like my son is doing photography, but honestly, Victoria, he started just taking photos himself out of nowhere. Like we didn't even tell him, oh, here's a camera, go take some pictures and go learn. Nothing like that. He just took my camera and started taking pictures. But his forte is in video. Like that's what he really loves to do. But I'm like, honey, if you're going to do video, you got to learn photography too. You got to go out there and do a lot of photos in order for you to get better in video. And he's like, oh, Mom, you're always telling me what I need to do. But I'm like, no, but if you're going to do one thing, you need to get good at a lot of different things.
That's true.
I said, because the client's going to come and say, hey, Alex, I really like your videos, but I want to do some photos. You're not going to say to that client no and lose the job because you don't want to do photos. So I'll force him out and be like, okay, you're going to take some pictures and I want you to look at things in a different way and like look at angles and look at light. And so he's really taking that on.
A great eye. He does. He has a great eye. And I think that his videography, like natural eye for videography informs his photography in a way that allows him to get angles and shots that I would not have thought of. And so when I see his work, I'm like, man, this kid has got a lot of talent. You definitely take this.
And when he was trying to get some equipment for it, his dad said to him, he goes, well, you have to prove to us that you're good at this before I can buy anything, because everything was expensive, which is another thing about being a photographer. It's really expensive. And then that's why I sent you that message. I'm like, how do you get insurance for this thing? Because he's getting these things that are so expensive. Do you get insurance? Whatever, et cetera, et cetera. There's a whole other component of business, insurance, like liabilities, disclaimers. How many pictures do you send out? You know, how do you get paid for those pictures? Do you maintain ownership of those pictures? Do you give ownership to me of those pictures? Like, there's so much that happens. But his dad was like, well, if you can prove to us that you're actually good at it, we'll think about investing in your equipment. And the other thing so he went out there and started doing videos for his friends, like his friends sang. So he did some music videos for them. It's so funny because he would come home. He's like, that's what I want to do. My goal and my vision is to do a video for Travis Scott.
Yes, that's awesome.
I'm like, you're too funny, honey. You're just okay. Go to your friends. He's so funny, and so little by little, he started getting his little confidence and like doing all that and like creating a portfolio. But I think a part of what you're doing and you're doing in your school is kind of giving us, your students, a little bit of some insight on what it takes to kind of build on your skill sets. Yeah.
Well, essentially what it is, personal branding photography school is my business model in a box.
Okay.
Like I mentioned earlier, I can't do anything halfway. I didn't decide to do this and then I was like, I'm going to do a little webinar and then I'm going to do a little this or that. No, the way that my personality works is like, I'm going to do it all the way or I'm going to do it not at all.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why I procrastinated so much and it's taken me so long. But I did all the preparation in the background. But now it is really like start to finish. What do you need to build a personal branding photography business? When I started this 5 years ago, there were maybe a handful of really successful personal branding photographers. They were not teaching their business yet. I reached out to a couple of them who never replied to me for whatever reason. And then so I was like, okay, well, I have to build this business model completely from scratch. What do I know? How do I, what do I take from wedding photography? What do I take from glamour photography? What do I take, how do I build this to create what I want? And so this business model is completely my own, and I want to teach other photographers how to do it. So in the school, you're going to learn how to brand yourself as a photographer, how to create your own personal style, how to work with clients, what the client experience actually looks like, how to get those clients to begin with, workflows and systems that help you run your business efficiently and effectively and raise your value for your client. Because I think in the beginning, you think, well, I don't need a whole lot. I can send out a PDF and I can send out a PayPal invoice and that's cool. And it is cool. But also if you set up those systems and workflows to look very professional, then that translates as professional to your client. And you can charge more for what you're doing simply by having systems in place that are professional.
Again, adding to credibility and a seriousness. To what you're doing.
Because when you're investing in your business, your clients can see how much you've invested. They are, especially in this industry, and that's one of the things I really want to communicate to my students who are coming from retail photography, is this is a whole different beast. When you're selling to moms and brides and family members on their photos, you're selling memories and you're selling heirlooms and you're selling this priceless quality of like, what would you take when you run out of a burning house? Right? But in personal branding photography, you're not. You're selling a business, an ROI.
A person.
You're selling, well, in the photography, you're selling a person, but you're also selling as a business, you're selling to a client who is making an investment in your business. And so you have to communicate what that investment is worth monetarily at the beginning and what it is worth to you down the line as a business owner. Okay. Our clients are very savvy. They're learning the same business models or business strategies energies that we are as photographers.
Right.
And so we're communicating to them, I understand the investment you're making in your business. Here's how I'm going to honor that. And here's how that investment is going to make you money in the future. Because if you're not, like, whatever you're investing in as a business, you're investing in it to make money as your business. And photography is not any different than that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a really great way of putting it, because I think a lot of people will ask, well, what do I get out of it?
Yeah. Well, you're getting out the perceptive value, right? One of the things that personal branding photography does really well is it elevates the perceptive value of what you have in your business. It communicates instantly to your clients that you have invested in yourself and in your brand as a business owner, because whether they know what good photography or bad photography is or not, they know that photography is expensive, right?
Yes.
And so they know that if you're investing in your branding photography, then you're investing in your business. And if I'm going to you as a client and I want your services and you haven't invested yourself monetarily or otherwise into the business structure, then I'm going to see you as either an amateur or somebody who doesn't care very much about their business, which translates to me that I may not be able to trust you to provide what I am paying you for. But when I go to you and I see that you have invested in your business structure, you've invested in your branding, you've invested in your marketing, all of these things, I immediately think, okay, well, they have taken the time and the money and the investment, and I can trust them because they're serious about what they're doing for me.
Yeah. And you know what? A lot of people like that look at things in terms of like, yeah, I'm going to hire her.
Yeah.
Or I'm not going to hire her.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I'll go to their websites. If their websites look that they are well put together, they've got great photos, they've got a good. The other thing I look at is grammar too. Like, can they even spell? Like, that's a big deal. Like, there's a lot of things that people are looking at to make sure, attention to detail, that there's a variety of looks, that their brand photos really capture each person's personality. Like Jennifer. Jennifer is another client of yours, and I can see what photos you've taken of her because I can tell that there's a thought process behind her photos. You know, other women that you take photos of all the time that I notice, and you're like, oh, of course, those are Victoria's photos. And now, you know, people will say to me, oh, I love the Victoria's pictures of you. Like, they don't even like assume anybody else took them. Yeah. But because they look like a certain type, they're brand photos. They're for my brand. If I'm going to do something for example, my podcast, which I love, and it's like my baby right now, I'm going to go to you because I know you're going to take care of my baby. Right. You're going to take care that you're going to get great images, and that I'm going to get great images and use them in multiple ways. And I think a lot of women don't understand how they can use their photography. That's something we need to teach women. Yeah. That's a huge one that I think that's something we need to definitely add into your school. It's like, how do you use your images? Because a lot of people have gorgeous images. They just don't know how to use them.
I agree.
Or they'll put them on Instagram and they don't give that image the right caption, the right messaging. They'll just put a great photo and they're like, just assume people are just going to love it. Yeah, they're beautiful.
Well, I think
but what do you want out of that picture?
Right. And I think that adds to the confusion about whether you need professional photography or not, because they're using professional images in the same way that they would be using snapshots or images that they take themselves on their phone. And that's the difference. I 100% advocate for bootstrapping your needs in your business. And if that means, you know, having your friends take your photos on your phone and editing them in an app, absolutely do that 100%. But know that those are great for your daily content and for stuff that you're putting out regularly. But that's not something you're going to want to put on your website or in your marketing material. You're advertising and marketing your business. You're spending money on these ads. You're spending money on your website, and they need to have the kind of images that match and align with the value that you're wanting to provide for your clients. And now that we're further along in the industry, and that, you know, most, you know, entrepreneurs understand what personal branding photography is, you know, you can almost not get away with it anymore. You know, because it has become one of those things that you do for your brand, just like you need a website, you need a social media account, you need professional photography. There's no way around it.
There's no way around it. And you've got to find a way to make that investment. Yeah. If you don't make that investment, it shows. And it's pretty obvious. Like, a lot of people don't understand how, it's your credibility and it's on the line whenever you're not using the correct photography. So what are the kind of students who would be a great student for be a brand photographer?
Oh, I want my students to have a lot of drive and dedication, that they're hungry, they want to build a business. They're ready. They're ready to hit the ground running. They have tried other things. They have not been able to be successful. They don't see themselves fitting into other genres for whatever reason. Like, I couldn't do family photography because I'm not great at wrangling the babies. You know what I mean? We got 5 and 10 and 15, and they all have different moods.
No, there's just a certain type of person that can deal with that.
And that was not me, right? And so my student is me 6 years ago, wanting so badly to build a business, wanting to have a thriving career, wanting to go full time in their photography business and not just as a side hustle on the weekends, wanting to get their weekends back if they're wedding photographers and they're like tired of not having any time with their family, right? And they want a business that they can implement out of the box and start getting clients and making money and going full time fast. They just need the direction, and they need a proven system that that they can trust and believe in. Last year, 2020, my business grew. And in the middle of COVID, and we shut down in March, and in April, my phone was ringing off the hook. And people were getting their personal branding photography sessions booked for when the lockdown lifted. I did 4 or 5 shoots in the summer before, things got dicey again in the fall. Yeah. And continued to grow. My business did not slow down. I owe that to having a great business structure and foundation, an amazing clientele, and amazing organic reach in terms of like SEO and my hashtag strategies on Instagram. Almost 90% of my clients come to me through Google.
Oh, wow.
Unless they're referred to me or they're repeat clients, they find me on Google, which I love, because people are looking for this style of photography. They want it, and they're looking for somebody who does it well, who's niched in it. I find that my clients don't generally like to go to photographers who do more than one thing, because they are business owners and they understand the power of a niche. They've been taught already you need to have a niche. So they want the people that they hire to have a niche, because they just equate that with being serious about your business.
Yeah. I equate it. I mean, that's where my mind goes. Do you prefer outdoor lifestyle sessions, or do you prefer indoor studio sessions?
It depends.
Yeah, it just depends, right?
Yeah. I do prefer outdoor for variety. Like, I can, hit a corner of downtown and get, so much variety in 30 minutes. So I love outdoor for like quick, fast lifestyle stuff. But when we're talking about like desk scenes and really having control, then definitely the studio. And of course, we're in Houston, so the weather can change on you.
It's so hot in the summer, so you're like, studios is what we're doing.
That's why this season, I call this season photoshoot season, which is the middle of the first quarter to the middle of the second quarter. Yeah. Because in Houston, that's when the best weather is. It's like cool, crispy days, like moving into the summer, but it's
not so hot. Yeah.
Season. And so people start shooting a lot during this time. Okay. Especially too, because it's the beginning of the year. People are thinking about their marketing efforts for the year. They want to get that on camera. So this is my busy season, where photographers in the wedding industry and families are usually around Christmas time. I slow down during Christmas, and then I ramp up in the spring.
Yeah. No, and especially because people are like really looking at the weather and then like looking outside. Like, you don't want to be taking outdoor pictures in July.
Oh no, you don't. No, I don't. And I don't let my clients.
Those are my birthday photos. My birthday photos are in July, and I'm like, I want photos. And so we always
melting. And
the last 2 or 3 years you've done my photos, and we've always done them in your studio. And I think one thing that I love about coming in to see you and coming in to take pictures with you and joining your Be a Brand photography group is that you are going to get a really good sense of the teacher in you. Yeah. You're a really good teacher. You taught classes at my boutique, and I was a teacher for 17 years. I used to evaluate student teachers. I evaluated student teachers for 7 years. So I used to have a checklist, and I went through things. So you're good. But I think the part that I think is going to really be amazing and grow you in terms of what you do is how good you are at sharing
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, information and details and tips and behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of women don't want to do that because I think they feel like, oh, this is like proprietary.
Yeah. I don't own any of this. Like, most of these aren't even original ideas. You know what I mean? Like, I've read 1 million books and I listened to 1,000 podcasts and like
all of us have, by the way,
hours of online education. Like, this isn't original. This is just how I've applied all of the knowledge that I've gained to create this business. And that's what I'm teaching you. So, I mean, you could Google all of this.
Right. You can go to YouTube and find it, but you go to someone like you when you want that personal relationship, that personal teacher, that person that's going to tell you, oh yeah, I know what you're doing. Let me tell you how you can try this other way.
When you want to do it quickly, when you're tired of the trial and error and you're tired of piecing together all the different things that you have to learn. Not everybody has that sort of like skill set of being able to go and do it all. They want somebody who says, I've done this is how I've done this, and I know it will work, so this is how you can do it.
I love it.
And that's what I want to do. Like, for those, there are going to be photographers out there who are not going to spend the money on my course because they're going to go and they're going to do it themselves. And that's amazing. But let me tell you, it's going to take you 5 years to get there.
Yeah.
You want to take my course, get it done in 8 weeks, and then you're ripping and running.
So how much is the course?
I am not telling yet.
Are you gonna? When are you gonna? Okay, when are you gonna tell people? Because they want to know. Like, my producer, Arlette, is like, she wants to know because she needs to budget. She's like, I need to know how much she's charging because I want to take it.
So you know how when you go on Yelp or on when you're looking for a new restaurant and it gives you the little dollar signs of like how expensive your restaurant is.
Yeah.
Let's just do $4 signs for my course. And then if you're on my waiting list, you're going to get first dibs and all the bonus stuff and all the deep discount stuff. And then the launch is scheduled for mid-March, early April. I have pushed it back a little bit as I start to like build everything. We're still trying to put some things in place. But yeah, if you're on my email list or in my community, then you get the first dibs, and then I'll do my launch from there. And I think it's a tremendous value. Honestly, I think a lot of people are scared to charge what they're worth in all aspects of business. But for me, like, just knowing all of the expertise and all of the information, and I'm the kind of person, like, I don't want to leave you with questions. And so everything that either I'm doing in my community, on my Instagram page, or in the school is going to be literally everything that I have to give. And I want to know that my students are going to take this seriously. They're going to put in the work, and then they're going to go and execute.
Gotcha.
So it's well worth the value for sure. And then for me, seeing the little photography babies grow, it's like, aww,
they're your little children.
And I mean, I get so many questions and people who've come to me who I've seen grow their business, and I'm not the kind of person who's like, you can't pick my brain for free. If it's well within the bounds of respectability, like, you have a question, ask me. I will tell you exactly what I know or how I did it, and that's how I build
or join my So you heard it, y'all. Y'all need to go budget today.
Budget. Put it in there. It's an expense.
Yeah. It's been so good talking to you, Victoria. We're going to have another episode, and we're going to talk about, oh my gosh, we're going to talk about personality types, which is something that you got me going on. And my producer loves this. So she said, you do not want Victoria to go home without you talking to her about this, because she's a huge fan of yours and she loves everything that you do. And she's so excited to have you. Yes, you're going to meet her one day because she's going to figure out a way to meet you one day. But so we're going to talk about that. But I definitely want to say thank you for joining us today and being here. I'm so grateful to have met you. I'm so grateful to have you in my life, to have you as my brand photographer, because, I don't go to anyone else but to Victoria for my brand photos, my podcast photos, all those things. Like, I use those things so much and all the time. And I tag you.
Yes, you do. You're amazing at that. Not everybody does that.
I want to just tell the other ladies, tag our photographer. We want to get her more work. I don't know. I think sometimes they think they don't need to do that, but it's just a nice thing.
It is, yeah. It's not
because people always ask,
yeah.
who took your pictures? Yeah. I want pictures like that.
That's right.
Okay, and I've had 2 ladies on my DMs always tell me, like, oh my God, your pictures are so good. I'm like, okay, you got to go to her. Every time they're like, you know how much she charges? I'm like, yeah, pay.
Yeah.
Every time. I'm going to get them there one day.
Good.
They're going to get there one day. So thank you so much for being here today. Again, everybody follow Victoria. Where can they follow you and where they can find stuff about you?
They can follow me on my business page at Victoria Garcia Studios. That is also on Facebook and Instagram. That's my website URL as well. And if you're interested in joining our community, you can follow me on Instagram at Be a Brand Photographer and on Facebook at Be a Brand Photographer. And you can go to personalbrandingphotographyschool.com to sign up for the wait list for our school launch.
So we have a wait list now.
We have a wait list.
Okay, you guys, you cannot ever, if you see something, get on it ASAP. That's what I did. I got on it right away because I said, I know this is going to be a wait list. Don't wait around, guys. Get on it ASAP.
Stuff in the community, there's information that drops there, and then there's even more stuff that's dropping in the email list. And it's all leading up to the good stuff, which is in the school. So I have way more than I even know what to do with. So if you're interested, that's the place to be.
So follow her. I'm definitely going to be posting all of this information on the description. And let's hold on and let's go on for the next episode. We're going to talk about personality types.
I'm so excited.
Okay, we need some more wine. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening in. Again, follow us at Vibes by Alicia or follow me at think_chick. I cannot wait to hear from you guys. Share this podcast with all of your friends. Tell everybody about us. And also, if you have the chance, leave a review. I would love a review. Thanks, everybody. See you guys next time.
Thank you.